Today, we're diving deep into the two titans shaping our world, the United States and China. In this explainer, we're going to break down everything from their economies to their militaries to see what really makes each of them a global superpower.
It's the question on everyone's mind, right? But the answer isn't as simple as it sounds. Is it all about the money, military reach, or is it about who's winning the tech race? Well, let's unpack it. So, to really get our heads around this, we're going to break it down into 6 key parts. We'll look at their histories, their economies, compare their militaries, dive into the tech race, see how their societies are built, and finally, look at their influence on the global stage. Let's start from the very beginning.
First up, their histories. To really understand where these two nations are headed, you have to look at where they came from. And trust me, their journeys to the top could not be more different.
On one side, you've got China, a civilization with a history that goes back millennia, shaped by one powerful dynasty after another. Even though the modern People's Republic was only established in 1949, its cultural and historical roots run incredibly deep.
And then you have the USA, a much younger nation, declaring its independence back in 1776. Its story is just one of an unbelievably fast ascent, really fueled by industrial power and innovation that just catapulted it onto the world stage in the 20th century.
All right, so how did those very different histories build the economic giants we see today? This is where the numbers get really interesting.
So as of 2024, the United States is still holding that top spot. Its economy, when we measure it by GDP, is a whopping $26 trillion, just an enormous figure.
But China is right on its heels. It's now the world's second largest economy, with a GDP of around $19 trillion, and the speed at which it's grown to reach that number is just incredible.
When you look at them side by side like this, you really get a sense of the scale. You can see the gap that still exists, but you also see just how dominant these two economies are. Together, they make up a huge chunk of the entire world's economy.
But here's the really crucial part. It's not just about the numbers, it's how they built this power. Their models are totally different. The US really leads the pack in innovation, finance, and the service industry. China, on the other hand, is an absolute powerhouse in manufacturing, infrastructure, and massive state-led economic planning.
Okay, so we've talked money. Now let's switch gears to military might. Because having a big economy is one thing, but being able to project power across the globe, that's a whole other part of being a superpower.
And right away, if you just look at the defense budgets, the difference is pretty stark. The US spends around $800 billion a year on defense. That's more than double China's budget, which sits at about $350 billion.
But that spending tells a story, right? It shows two completely different strategic goals. The US is all about maintaining a global presence, with more than 800 military bases all over the world. China, meanwhile, is laser-focused on modernizing its forces to secure its own region and build up its power in every domain you can think of: land, sea, air, space, and even cyberspace.
All right, next up, technology. Honestly, this might be the most critical battleground of the 21st century. This is where the future is really being written.
For the longest time, the US has been the king of the hill here, no question. It's home to Silicon Valley, to giants like Google, Apple, and Microsoft, and it's still pioneering fields like AI, robotics, and even commercial space travel with companies like SpaceX.
But wow, China's rise in the tech world has been absolutely explosive. It has its own massive companies, Huawei, Alibaba, Tencent, that are household names globally. It's already claiming leadership in really important areas like 5G, and it just launched its very own space station. That's a huge achievement.
So what this really tells us is that the future is going to be defined by this fierce competition, especially in these foundational technologies like artificial intelligence and quantum computing. Whoever gets the edge here could have a serious advantage for decades.
Okay, so we've looked at the big external stuff: money, military, tech. But now, let's look inward, because the social structures and the core values of the US and China are just fundamentally different.
And this right here, this is a fundamental clash of ideas. The US model is really built around the individual, celebrating personal freedom and democratic rights. Now, it definitely faces big challenges, like social inequality. China's model, on the other hand, is built on collectivism and state planning, and that has allowed it to pull hundreds of millions of people out of poverty at a record pace, but often that comes with limits on individual freedoms. And finally,
Let's zoom out to the global chessboard. How do these two giants project their power and influence across the world? What's their game plan?
Well, you can't talk about China's global strategy without talking about this, the Belt and Road Initiative. This is a gigantic, multi-trillion-dollar project to build new trade routes, ports, and railways to connect China with the rest of the world, massively boosting its economic influence along the way.
This table does a great job of breaking down their different playbooks. The U.S. really leans on its long-standing alliances like NATO and its financial clout, with the U.S. dollar being the world's go-to currency. China, on the other hand, is busy building new partnerships and using its economic muscle as the world's factory to gain influence.
So at the end of the day, what are we looking at? This isn't just one superpower and a single challenger. No, we're looking at two profoundly different models of power, each with its own history, its own unique strengths, and its own clear vision for the future.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question. As these two titans continue on their paths, are they headed for conflict? Or will they find a way to cooperate? Or are they in the process of creating a completely new world order, something we've never seen before? The answer to that is going to define the 21st century.